All right, so today we are going to be taking a deep dive into the world of rental management.
Okay.
And, it's a lot more than just collecting rent checks, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We've got this great report here from the folks over at Meritorious Consultants.
Mm.
And these guys, like, really know their stuff.
Yeah, they're the experts.
They live and breathe rental management. So we're going to be trying to get the inside scoop from them on how to maximize returns on rental properties.
Right, whether you're just starting out
Yeah,
or you're a seasoned investor.
exactly.
There's always something new to learn.
And I think this deep dive is going to be really interesting because, some of the stuff that they're talking about is like pretty surprising.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, did you know that some people are making serious cash renting out properties they don't even own?
Yeah, it's called rental arbitrage.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so maybe we'll get into that a little bit later.
We definitely should.
But first, I kind of want to get a lay of the land. What does the rental management scene look like right now?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of this interesting blend of hospitality and real estate.
Okay.
Because you're not just offering a space anymore. You're creating an experience.
Right.
Whether it's for a weekend getaway or a year-long lease.
I see.
And what's really changing the game is technology.
Yeah, the report mentions a lot of different platforms.
Oh, tons of them.
It's almost overwhelming how many there are.
It really is.
Like there's Hostaway, Guesty, Lodgify, of course, Airbnb, Appfolio, Booking.com.
Right.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and they all kind of work together in this ecosystem
Okay.
to help manage everything from bookings and communication to like analyzing market trends and setting prices.
So you're saying like these tools are essential for success in the rental management game?
Absolutely essential.
Okay.
They're the key.
So let's talk about like short-term rentals for a minute.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's where a lot of people are making like the big bucks, right?
Yeah, that's definitely where the high income potential is.
Especially with platforms like Airbnb.
Right. Imagine you have a condo in a popular vacation spot.
Okay.
Instead of renting it out for a fixed monthly rate, you could list it on Airbnb.
Right.
Charge, say, like $200 a night.
Wow.
And suddenly you're looking at significantly higher earnings, especially during peak season.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all about flexibility.
Okay, so what about for people who are looking for like a steadier income stream?
Right.
I'm guessing that's where long-term rentals come in?
Exactly. Long-term leases offer that predictable cash flow,
Okay.
which could be really appealing to some investors.
Sure, but I mean, it's not just about finding a tenant and calling it a day, right?
No, there's definitely a strategy involved.
Okay, so like what are some of the key things to keep in mind with long-term rentals?
Well, first and foremost, tenant screening.
Okay.
You want to make sure you're getting reliable tenants who are going to take care of your property.
Right.
Then there's setting the right rent price.
Okay.
You need to be competitive, but also profitable.
Makes sense.
And regular inspections are key to catch any maintenance issues early on and protect your investment.
So it's a bit more hands-on than some people might think.
Yeah, definitely.
But are there ways to like streamline things?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where those tech platforms we mentioned come in.
Okay.
They can really help automate a lot of the tasks,
Okay.
track your expenses, even analyze market data to help you make better decisions.
So it's like having a little assistant in your pocket.
Pretty much.
Now, we've talked about short-term rentals,
Right.
long-term rentals, but the report also mentions something called arbitrage.
Yes.
And I gotta admit, I'm not totally familiar with that one.
So arbitrage is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Essentially, you're leasing a property and then subletting it for a higher profit.
Whoa, okay.
So let's say you lease a two-bedroom apartment for $1,500 a month.
Okay.
You furnish it nicely and then list it on Airbnb for $150 per night.
Okay.
If you can manage to rent it out for even half the month, you're making a good profit.
Wow, that sounds pretty lucrative.
It can be.
But I'm guessing there are some risks involved too, right?
Absolutely. There are definitely legal and logistical things to consider.
Okay.
For one, you need to make sure your lease agreement allows for subletting.
Right.
You also need to be aware of any local regulations regarding short-term rentals.
Okay.
And of course, you're taking on the responsibility of managing those short-term guests.
So this is definitely not something to jump into without doing your homework?
Yeah, you really need to do your research.
It sounds like expert guidance would be crucial.
Definitely crucial, yeah.
Speaking of partnerships, there's another trend that's emerging in the report. They talk about income sharing models.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about how those work.
Sure. So basically, it's a way to share both the risk and the reward.
Okay.
Let's say you own a vacation rental, but you don't want to deal with the hassle of managing it.
I can see that.
You could partner with a management company.
Okay.
They handle everything, bookings, cleaning, guest communication, and then you split the income.
So they do all the work and you just collect a check.
Well, you still have to oversee things,
Okay,
but it takes a lot of the day-to-day management off your plate.
I see.
The split is usually like 70-30 or 80-20,
Okay.
depending on the agreement.
So it's like having a built-in team to take care of all the details.
Exactly.
That sounds pretty appealing, especially if you're not living near the property.
It's a great option for a lot of owners.
And it aligns incentives, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Both the owner and the management company are motivated to maximize the property's earnings.
Exactly. Everyone wins.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Short-term rentals, long-term rentals, arbitrage, income sharing.
Right.
But I'm sure there are challenges too, right?
Well, of course, every industry has its challenges.
So what are some of the biggest hurdles in the rental management world?
Well, one of the biggest is keeping up with regulations.
Okay.
Short-term rental laws are constantly changing, and it can be tough to stay compliant.
Right.
Then there's the issue of fluctuating demand.
Okay.
You might have a great month, followed by a slump, especially in seasonal markets.
Makes sense.
And of course, meeting tenant expectations is always a challenge.
Yeah, that's true in any business.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a lot to juggle.
It can be.
But I have a feeling technology comes in to save the day again, right?
You bet technology is really revolutionizing the way we manage properties.
Okay.
For example, those smart pricing algorithms we mentioned earlier,
Right.
they take all the guesswork out of setting rates.
So instead of manually adjusting prices based on gut feeling,
Exactly.
these algorithms analyze tons of data.
Tons of it.
Seasonality, local events, even competitor pricing to recommend the optimal price to maximize occupancy and revenue.
It's all data-driven,
So it's like having a data scientist on your team.
pretty much.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it doesn't stop there.
Oh,
There are tools that automate guest communication, schedule cleaning services, even flag potential maintenance issues before they become big problems.
so it's like having a whole team of virtual assistants working for you.
Exactly. It's pretty incredible.
Okay, I have to admit, all this tech sounds amazing, but it can also be a bit intimidating,
I understand.
especially for someone who's just starting out in the rental management world.
Right. It can definitely feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the good news is that a lot of these platforms are designed to be user-friendly.
Okay.
They offer intuitive interfaces,
Okay.
helpful tutorials,
Yeah.
and usually excellent customer support.
So it's not just about having the tech, but also having the resources to understand and utilize it effectively.
Precisely.
That's where those expert consultants come in, I guess.
Yeah, people like the folks at Meritorious.
Okay.
They can help you navigate the tech landscape, identify the right tools for your needs,
Right.
and develop a winning strategy tailored to your goals.
It's all about finding the right partners, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a tech platform, a management company, or a trusted consultant.
Absolutely.
Having that support system can make all the difference.
Couldn't agree more.
So we've talked about the landscape, the strategies, the challenges, the tech solutions.
Hey.
So where do we go from here? Like, what does all this mean for the future of rental management?
Well, if we look at the big picture, I think we're seeing a shift towards a more data-driven, technology-enabled approach.
Okay.
This means greater efficiency, transparency, and ultimately profitability for property owners.
That's great.
But it also raises an interesting question.
What's that?
What role will human interaction play in this increasingly automated world?
Right, because at the end of the day, rental management is still about people, isn't it?
It is.
Connecting property owners with tenants, creating positive experiences, building relationships.
It's all about those human connections.
So how do we strike that balance between tech-driven efficiency and that human touch?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And I think the answer lies in finding ways to leverage technology to enhance those human interactions, not replace them.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Automation can free up property managers to focus on providing personalized service,
Okay.
addressing tenant concerns, building a sense of community within their properties.
So it's not about tech versus humans. It's about tech empowering humans to do what they do best.
Exactly. And that's a really exciting prospect.
I agree.
Imagine a world where property managers are no longer bogged down by administrative tasks,
Okay.
but are instead empowered to act as true hospitality professionals,
You're right.
creating welcoming, vibrant living spaces for their tenants.
Now that's a vision of the future I can get behind.
Me too.
And speaking of the future, the report from Meritorious ends with a really thought-provoking question.
Oh, yeah.
Is the ultimate goal to have AI managing our properties while we relax on a beach?
That's a great question.
It is.
And it really gets to the heart of what we've been talking about.
Bro, is complete automation the dream?
Yeah.
Or does it risk losing that essential human element
Mm.
that makes rental management more than just a transaction?
That's something to think about.
It really is. So as we move forward in this deep dive,
Yeah.
we're going to be exploring these questions in more detail
Sounds good.
and trying to figure out what the future holds for rental management.
Exciting times.
It really is.
It is.
All right, so stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into rental management,
Can't wait.
coming up after the break.
It's kind of like spreading the responsibility, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like a pretty sweet deal.
It can be, especially for owners who maybe aren't super hands-on or
Right.
live far away from their properties.
Exactly.
So they don't want to deal with the day-to-day stuff.
Okay, so we've got short-term rentals, long-term rentals, arbitrage, this income sharing model.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like there's a lot of different ways to approach rental management these days.
There are tons of options.
But I'm sure there are challenges too, right? Like no industry's perfect.
Oh, yeah, of course there are challenges.
So what are some of the biggest hurdles that rental property owners are facing?
Well, keeping up with regulations is a big one, especially for short-term rentals. I mean, those laws are constantly changing,
Right.
and it could be a real headache to stay compliant.
Yeah, that makes sense. What else?
Well, demand can be unpredictable.
Okay.
You might have a really strong month and then
Right.
things slow down, especially in places that are, you know.
Seasonal?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then there's always the challenge of meeting tenant expectations,
Right, making sure everyone's happy.
which is easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like it can be a pretty demanding job.
It definitely can be.
But I have a feeling technology is here to help us out again, right?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Technology is like the knight in shining armor for rental management.
okay, how so?
We'll take those smart pricing algorithms we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Instead of, trying to figure out prices manually.
Mm-hmm.
These algorithms analyze tons of data like seasonality, local events, even what your competitors are charging.
Wow.
And they recommend the optimal price to maximize your occupancy and your revenue.
So it's like having a personal pricing consultant.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's amazing. And it doesn't stop there, right?
No, there's so much more.
What else can technology do for us?
Well, you've got tools that automate guest communication,
Okay.
schedule cleaning services, flag potential maintenance issues.
So it's like having a whole team of virtual assistants.
Exactly. It's like having a whole team in your pocket.
I love it. Okay, so all this technology sounds amazing, but
Yeah.
it can also be a little bit intimidating, right?
Oh, yeah, I totally get that.
Especially for someone who's maybe not so tech savvy
Right.
or just starting out.
It can definitely feel overwhelming at first.
So what's the best way to approach all this new technology?
Well, the good news is that a lot of these platforms are designed with user-friendliness in mind.
Okay.
So they have really intuitive interfaces, helpful tutorials, and usually pretty great customer support.
So you're saying it's not as scary as it seems?
Exactly. Once you start diving in, it's usually pretty easy to get the hang of things.
Okay, good to know. But I guess there's still a lot of value in having those human experts to guide you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like the folks at Meritorious.
Yeah.
They can be invaluable.
Okay.
They can help you navigate the tech landscape,
Right.
figure out which tools are right for you, and develop a strategy that aligns with your goals.
It's all about finding the right partners, whether it's a tech platform, a management company, or a human consultant.
Exactly. Having that support system can make a huge difference.
Okay, so we've talked about the landscape, the strategies, the challenges, the tech solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we go from here? What does the future hold for rental management?
Well, if we look at the big picture, I think we're seeing a shift towards a more data-driven and technology-enabled approach,
Okay.
which is great news for property owners.
How so?
Well, it means greater efficiency, transparency, and ultimately higher profits.
That's what we like to hear.
But it also raises an interesting question.
Oh, what's that?
What role will human interaction play in this increasingly automated world?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, rental management is still a people business, right?
It is for sure.
Connecting property owners with tenants, creating positive experiences, building relationships.
That human element is so important.
So how do we strike that balance between tech-driven efficiency and that personal touch?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So how do we answer it?
Well, I think it's about finding ways to use technology to enhance those human interactions,
Okay.
not replace them.
Right.
Think about it. Automation can free up property managers to focus on providing more personalized service,
I see.
addressing tenant concerns, building a sense of community within their properties.
So it's not about tech versus humans. It's about tech empowering humans to do what they do best.
Exactly. And that's a
Yeah.
really exciting prospect.
I agree. So imagine a world where property managers are no longer bogged down by all those tedious administrative tasks,
Right.
and they can really focus on creating those positive experiences for their tenants.
Yeah, exactly. It's about shifting the focus from transactions to relationships.
Now that's a future I can get behind.
Me too.
And speaking of the future, the report from Meritorious ends on this really thought-provoking question.
Oh, yeah?
Is the ultimate goal to have AI managing our properties while we sip margaritas on a beach?
That's the dream, isn't it?
Sounds pretty nice.
But it also makes you think,
About what?
is complete automation really the best solution?
Right.
Or do we risk losing that essential human element?
That personal touch.
Exactly the thing that makes rental management more than just a business transaction.
It's a really interesting question, something to ponder
Definitely.
as we continue our deep dive into the world of rental management.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
I mean, who knows what the future holds, right?
That's true. But it's fun to think about.
It is. I mean, we're already seeing things like virtual property tours becoming more and more popular.
Oh, yeah, those are cool.
Imagine being able to walk through a rental property from anywhere in the world using VR.
Wow, that would be a game changer.
It would, especially for long-distance investors.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I guess as AI gets even smarter, things like tenant screening could become even more automated and sophisticated.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine AI analyzing not just credit scores and background checks,
Yeah.
but also things like social media profiles and online reviews.
Oh, that's kind of scary.
It is a little bit,
Yeah.
but also pretty amazing.
Yeah, I guess it just shows how quickly things are changing in this industry.
And we haven't even talked about blockchain yet.
Okay.
Imagine rental agreements being stored securely on a blockchain,
Okay.
making the whole process more transparent and efficient.
It's mind-blowing to think about all the possibilities.
It is.
But it also makes me realize that to thrive in this industry, you need to be adaptable
Absolutely
and
right.
willing to embrace new technologies.
Definitely.
So for our listeners who are, thinking about getting into rental management, what are some key takeaways they should keep in mind?
Well, first off, remember that this is a dynamic field. There are so many different ways to approach it, from short-term rentals to arbitrage to those income-sharing models.
Right.
Second, embrace technology. I mean, it's changing everything about how we manage properties and maximize returns.
Okay.
And finally, remember that the future of rental management is all about finding that sweet spot between leveraging technology and preserving that human element.
I like that. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So it seems like we've learned a lot today about the world of rental management.
We have.
And this report from Meritorious Consultants has been super helpful.
Yeah, they really know their stuff.
They do. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, remember knowledge is power.
Always.
And in the world of rental management, staying ahead of the curve is key.
Absolutely.
So as you ponder the future of rental management, whether it's AI landlords on the beach or something completely different.
Who knows what the future holds?
Exactly. The choices you make today will shape the rental landscape of tomorrow. Happy investing, everyone. He bet.